Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, the author of How to Scam Your Grandparents, because let's be real, that money's going to be yours anyway, my brother Mike.
Yes, that classic tome. I tell you, that's what I call wealth management, is what I call it. That's a wealth
Mike's
management.
whole retirement plan.
Make yourself better by reading my book, okay? By reading my books, plural. I'm a multi-time published author. Yeah.
Mike invented that whole Nigerian prince scheme. That was his whole deal.
Yeah.
That was how
I'm the Nigerian prince.
Yeah. He's it.
It's me.
And you didn't even know. It's right. He's right there. Right? Like, wow. We should all be. Yeah, I'm just so thrilled to be on the same video chat as you. You're famous.
Right.
Anyway, on this week's episode, we'll be talking about a very good week of Royals baseball. We'll talk about the Royals up and down bullpens. Since that seems to be a real hot topic right now. A lot of Royals fans want to talk about that. And then we'll preview this week's games like we always do. But first, we got to remind you to make sure that you subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack. We're having a bunch of very interesting conversations on there. We talked about each of these trades at the trade deadline individually on our last midweek episode. So make sure you're becoming a paid subscriber to that. $5 a month, and you get so much extra content. It's wonderful stuff. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us comments on YouTube. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. We like talking back to you in those comments. So make sure you're leaving us a lot of comments and that sort of thing when you're interacting with our stuff. Also, we have to let you know that BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet on the first on up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the game are being played. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of their over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. We'll start the review of last week with roster news. There was a lot of it. Okay. But like we've already talked about the trade deadline on our midweek episode. So if you're interested on the details of those trades that we talked about, go subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack and listen to that midweek episode. We'll talk a little bit about the trade deadline generally, but we're not going to get into too much detail. Make sure Mike also wrote an excellent post for the Royals Weekly Substack about the trades as well. So you can read that too over on the Substack. But we're going to talk about the trades broadly. The Royals did trade for Lucas Erceg, Paul DeJong, and Michael Lorenzen here at the trade deadline. You'll remember they made a trade for Hunter Harvey a couple weeks ago. We already covered that, but in a broad sense, Mike, what are your thoughts on the additions of these three new players?
I like it. I think it showed an advanced level of GMing by J.J. Piccolo and that front office.
Let's turn GM into a verb. He GM'd it all day
he
over there.
He GM'd it all over the place. That's why my theme for this week's actually going to be...
He GM'd it all over the place. That's gross, man.
Just throwing GM left and right. But no, he did a great job, I thought. I thought they did a great job. It was very creative and calculated, and it did address most of their needs. We'll see if it's enough, I guess, is what we're going to kind of see in the playoff run here. But no, I thought it was very creative. I thought it showed a break from some of the Dayton Moore thinking as well, which I liked. And so, yeah, it was, I think, a strong trade deadline.
Yeah, I agree. It also shows that they have clearly identified among their prospect pool who is essential to the future and who is not. Whereas Dayton Moore seemed to think everybody was essential to the future. Could not trade from that prospect pool. He loved every one of them like his own. And I get that. Hey, he's probably a great person because of it. But as a GM, you got to be willing to trade some of the prospects that you think are not, foundational to your future in order to help you when you need that little bit of help. And so, yeah, I'm very happy that the deadline was so bullpen focused, because I do think that that's a large issue with this team. I also think that Paul DeJong might be a sneaky, valuable trade right now. I think the fact that he has some power off the bench, the fact that he can play third base and second base really well, shortstop in a pinch, I don't think he's the type of defensive shortstop. I think he's third in the pecking order.
Yeah, Mike
maybe even fourth if you count Garrett Hampson. I don't know. And so obviously Bobby Witt Jr. and Maikel Garcia would be above him, I think. But, useful defensively, has some power to the bat. And then if they could just teach him to be a little bit more patient at the plate, swing at some more strikes and fewer pitches outside the strike zone, I think he has some value coming down the stretch.
It's all about the fastball for him. If he can hit if he can just become a close to average hitter of a fastball, everything else is going to look so much better. He's going to look like a really productive player. Now, obviously, he'll never be a guy I think that walks a whole bunch, but if he can improve on that fastball, and we've seen Alex Zumwalt and what's his name? What's the other guy's name?
Duran.
Yep, there we go. Team? I think I think he is. We've seen them be able to do that. We saw him do it with Hunter Renfroe, so he's improved quite a bit there. So if DeYoung can do that as well, you just stole something there.
Yeah, that'd be great. The Royals also DFA'd John McMillan this last week to make room for some of these new guys. If you'll remember, John McMillan came up last year for the Royals, had a brief stretch where he was looking like the future back-end reliever for them, but then got hurt and has never been the same since, really. He was claimed off of waivers by Miami, so he is no longer a member of the Royals organization. Mike, what are your thoughts on the Royals DFAing John McMillan and Miami picking him up?
I was actually not all that surprised. I mean, the timeline is very short for a guy who looked like he was going to be an 8th or 9th inning guy for you at some point. But I'm still really foggy about what happened with the injury. Like, it was a shoulder thing, right?
I don't know. I'm still foggy about it too.
The Royals didn't come out and like say, hey, by the way, John McMillan hurt this thing is going to be out this long.
I thought originally it was a forearm thing, and everybody was like, oh no, could it be TJ? And they were like, it's not TJ. He's not going to need TJ. But then it dragged on for a really long time. It seemed like it wasn't
and then
ready
he came
for
back,
spring training.
And when he started throwing again, he's throwing 94.
Yeah.
And you're going, what? That's not John McMillan. John McMillan throws 98, 99. You know, like So I hope it gets fixed. I hope he succeeds in Miami because he had some talent.
At first, I was pretty surprised by this move because, I mean, why would you trade a guy who at one time looked like he had so much promise as not trade him, but why would you DFA a guy who at one time looked like he had so much promise as a reliever? And then I was thinking to myself, well, and there's tons of slack on this 40-man. And then I went and I looked at it, and actually there's not that much slack on this 40-man anymore. And so I'm like, okay, maybe John McMillan was the move here. I mean, there's maybe one or two other guys you could say like, well, maybe that would have been a better option or something like that. But
you just drafted 15 relievers in the middle of the MLB draft.
You did. And so the question is, how much are you going to be really, and all of them are college relievers too. And so it's like, how much are you going to be like, okay, we need to really invest long-term in relief options when, I mean, they're probably thinking of Bolin as a relief option at this point, maybe Veneziano as a relief option. So like they're going to have relief options, I think. And they just traded for Ursic, who they've got 5 years of control over. And so maybe McMillan was an expendable guy when you started looking at that 40-man. But yeah, still has all that potential, and so hopefully Miami can get that out of him. They are pretty good at developing pitching there, and so hopefully he can make his debut with them at some point and show the world that he's ready to pitch again. On the field, the Royals needed a stellar week coming into this week because you'll remember they dropped 2 series to the Diamondbacks and Cubs coming into this week, and everybody was like, they need to win some now because their schedule's getting harder soon. Well, they went ahead and got 6 wins from this week, going 6-1 to bring their overall record to 63-50. They hold a 2.5 game lead for the last wild card spot, and they're 5 games back of Cleveland for the AL Central lead, though the Twins are a half game up on the Royals right now as well. The week started with a sweep of the White Sox. We love playing the White Sox. It's so great. And then it ended with the Royals taking 3 of 4 from the Tigers. The week was essentially saved in my mind by MJ Melendez. We'd all be feeling a lot different about this week right now. This episode wouldn't be so cheery if MJ Melendez hadn't come off the bench and hit a pinch hit 3-run home run in the game today in the top of the 9th with 2 outs to win the game. Royals were down 2-0. He comes in, hits a 3-run bomb on the last out, and they end up winning the game. Mike, how are you feeling about a very winning week from the Royals this week?
Pretty good. I feel like they did what we expected and kind of needed them to do, but I don't feel like they answered any questions necessarily. You know, their offense maybe looks like it's up a tick with Vinny Pasquantino contributing at a very high level and Freddie Fermin contributing at a very high level. Hunter Renfroe is still hitting. So maybe the lineup feels a little deeper now, and I like that. But I haven't seen as significantly that the bullpen has answered questions and that everybody's found their role yet. And I haven't seen a bunch of offensive consistency because we got blanked by 2 guys today who shouldn't be blanking people. So
I think it was 3. I think it was
it 3 guys?
Yeah, 3 guys. I can't remember all their names even, but yeah. They essentially did a bullpen game today.
Yeah.
And we were getting blanked by some pretty pretty mediocre pitchers there for a
Herder. The second guy's name was Herder. I remember that.
He was the third guy. It was
he the third guy?
Fado,
Okay.
and there was a guy named Hafney, I think, and then Herder. And then it ended up getting blown by whoever they brought in to save the game in the ninth. I can't remember his name, but yeah, I think they definitely needed 5 wins no matter what coming into this week. And they got 6 out of this week, which is great. Had to beat the White Sox, had to beat the Tigers. Their schedule gets tougher from here, and we'll talk a little about that in our preview section, but they got some wins. They got some distance from the Red Sox. I agree with you. The offense has looked a little bit better this week. The bullpen is still a question mark, but I think you're seeing some quality out of some guys back there. And so that makes you feel a little bit better. But yeah, it's harder to prove anything against teams as weak as the White Sox and the Tigers, right? The MO for the Royals all year has been, we can beat the bad teams. We struggle against the good teams. This next stretch is really going to answer us a question, which is like, okay, you've had all year to sort of work on what you want this team to be, to get better, to progress. This is the stretch where you have to show us that you are a better team than you were in April and May. Mike, winning 6 weeks, there are going to be plenty of strong performers. Winning 6 games, there are going to be plenty of strong performers to choose from. Who's you got for strong performer this week?
I just mentioned him, Vinny Pasquantino. We told the audience, hey, he needs to be a little bit better. He needs to be a little bit more productive. He needs to loft the ball more. He's been doing that for a couple weeks now, but this week was exceptional. 11 for 32 with 1 double and 4 home runs this week. 12 RBI, that's big run production, a walk and 3 strikeouts. He has, we talked about, there's 2 positive things happening for him now. He's lofting the ball more, which is getting the home runs and some opposite field stuff in big RBI situations, which I talked about in the midweek episode, has been huge for him. And then the other thing is this. He's getting some good luck that he wasn't getting before, and that some of those ground balls are now getting through. And so pitch selection's huge for him, but if he can continue to swing when the ball is up, and if it's down, hit it hard enough to get through somewhere, that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, guess how many of those home runs were hit to dead center or the opposite field?
I don't think any. That I
Zero of them. Zero. I'd be surprised if he has any this year that are hit to the opposite field or dead center, honestly. Like, he is a pull home run hitter. If he wants the power, he's got to pull the ball, and it's got to be in the air. And he knows that, right? And he knows that for him, pitch selection isn't just about swinging at strikes and not swinging at non-strikes. It's about swinging at pitches he knows he can loft and pull, right? And so when he's in advantageous counts, he needs to lay off anything he can't loft and pull, okay? Because he's in the driver's seat, and he wants to be lofting and pulling. That's where his extra base power comes from. And so he's done it a ton this week, and I hope he stays locked in the zone. You see when he steps in that batter's box, he looks locked in, and I hope he stays that way for about 2 months now at the very least. My strong performer of the week is Michael Wacha. He got 2 starts this week, was very productive in both of them. 13 innings pitched, 12 hits, only 4 runs in that time. He did give up 6 walks uncharacteristically from Michael Wacha in those 13 innings and 7 strikeouts, but always seemed to find the answer when he needed it. Today he was in trouble a few times, always able to dance through the raindrops and get out of trouble. And that was great. They needed a really big start from him today. Went out and got a quality start. I think he went 6 even, maybe 6 today, 7 in his first start of the week. So he gave him some innings, and they needed the innings too because they had to use so many pitchers last night going into the 11th inning, I think. And so he helped out their bullpen. He also helped out their team, gave them a chance to be successful and a chance to come back and end up winning that game today. There were some weak performers. It wasn't amazing for everybody. Mike, who's your weak performer for this week?
Well, he's a weak performer, Adam Frazier, because he went 0 for 5. Okay, no walks, 0 offensive production from Adam Frazier this week.
No,
but I really wanted to bring him up because I now question what is his role here on the team when you have Paul DeYoung and you have Michael Garcia and Michael Massey and you have Garrett Hampson. Like, Garrett Hampson's outperforming him big time. So, and provides more of a base running threat. Now, I understand he's left-handed and he's right-handed, but what are you doing? You're not producing at all. So, is there someone else we could bring up to help out? I don't know. But Adam Frazier, it looks like the 26th man to me, and maybe less.
I got to tell you, he came to the plate today pinch hitting in the 9th because he was the second out of that 9th inning.
Yeah.
right before MJ Melendez hit that home run. He walked up to the plate, and I was like thinking of that line from Office Space where the guy's like, "What would you say it is you do
You
here?"
do here.
Right? I'm just not clear on that right now. And I'm thinking the whole time, like, boy, I'd much rather this be Tyler Gentry right now, like, or anybody, a lot of guys. I'd much rather it be Nelson Velasquez. I'd much rather it be name a guy, CJ Alexander, whatever. Like, I have way more confidence in them to do anything offensively than I have in Adam Frazier. I don't care if he's facing a righty, a lefty. I don't care if he's facing a guy who throws with his feet. Like, Adam Frazier's got no chance up there, and I don't know what he's doing for the Royals right now. In my mind, it has to be a matter of time before he's no longer a Royal if the team is actually serious about chasing down a playoff spot. My week performer this week is another guy who's come under a lot of fan scrutiny, and that would be Hunter Harvey, relief pitcher they just traded for a few weeks ago. He went 3 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, gave up 6 hits, 1 home run, did have 3 strikeouts and no walks. The thing about Harvey right now is when guys are making contact, it is insanely hard contact, which is why he's given up that 6 hits in 3 innings, right? Like, he did have a clean inning today, his first as a Royal. He closed out that game in the ninth today. I was shitting bricks. I'm sure you were too, Mike, when I saw that he was coming in. But, it's a tough week for him, and he's had a tough go of it as a Royal. I don't think fans are off the, calling for his job at this point or anything, because we're waiting to see if Sweeney and Bove can find an answer for him. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the bullpen moving in, so we'll get a chance to talk about it more. But it was a rough week this week. I'm hoping he can find some answers moving forward. Mike, it was a solid week for the Royals in terms of win total. What exactly are you going for as a theme?
Oh, this one, I'm digging in the bag for this one. Okay. This is a two-time theme here. Okay. Double theme. It works on many levels.
Works on multiple levels. That's Mike's themes. Mike's
right?
themes are like an onion. They're layered.
That's right. Every time you say it again, you think something new. It's like, it sounds all brand new to you. So this is from a song called Going Back to Kansas City by the New Basement Tapes. They're just a collection of musicians who decided to put out one album that was Bob Dylan songs that he never put out. And so one of them was called so Bob Dylan wrote the lyrics. You're going to hear one of them is called Going Back to Kansas City. So it works on the Kansas City level. That's one level for you there, Mark.
That's one very obvious level. Right
exactly.
on the surface.
So you get how I like to do things. There. You get how I like to do things.
Yeah, I do.
So it goes, and you called me to come, then I do. Then you say you've made some mistake. You invite me into your house. Then you say you got to pay for what you break. Now, I imagine this as what JJ Piccolo would like to say to Royals fans. Okay? Because we asked him to be Dayton Moore, or to be something different than Dayton Moore. Okay? And then we say, like, hey, you've screwed up a couple times. We don't know about some of the first round draft picks. We don't know if the pitching development is where it needs to be. And then, he comes in and pays for it with what I think was a really great trade deadline. And so I think JJ Piccolo deserves some credit for the success of this team going back to last year even. And so this is what, this is my my JJ Piccolo, like stand up anthem.
Okay, that's an interesting one to choose.
Because some of those guys helped us win this week already. Paul DeYoung has helped us win.
I'm talking about this as the anthem for JJ Piccolo. But all right,
Piccolo's deep into the New Basement Tapes.
Oh, he loves them. He loves them. But it is interesting to consider, like, how many moves did he have to get right in order to make this team happen? He had to get the Cole Reagans move right. He had to get the Michael Wacha and the Seth Lugo moves right. He had to get even small moves like making sure that Freddie Fermin is still on this roster and gets chances and opportunities. He had to get that right. They just had to get so many, keeping Brady Singer and hiring Brian Sweeney, who would end up helping Brady Singer. Like, there are just so many things.
Not trading Salvador Perez.
Not trading Salvador Perez. He had to get so many things right in order to make this team what it has been so far this year. And did he get all of them right? Probably not. But
Will Smith is still on the team.
Yeah.
Adam Frazier's still on the team.
Yeah, but he probably got 92, 95% of them right, something like that. It's incredible. Yes, I'm going with a much simpler. Mine does not have multiple levels. It is really just one thing. It's a real
Mine
one
is
note theme this
Inception,
year.
and yours is the Goofy movie. I think is what we're
Yes,
trying to say.
basically, yeah. And so my theme is a line from a song from the Cars. From I believe Rick Ocasek is the songwriter from the Cars, and it's I guess you're just what I needed. Mike,
Just
I'm going to
what
sing it
I
real quick.
needed.
Yeah, please do the backup. I guess you're just what I needed.
Just what I needed.
Okay, I'll make that sound great in post.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah,
He doesn't know what post is. He doesn't know.
I'm the one who does all of our posts. Anyway, yes, this week was the week that the Royals absolutely needed. They needed to go in and bank wins before this very long, tough stretch. And they did exactly that against the White Sox and Tigers. And so this is just what they needed, but it's also just what they needed, right? They didn't get any more than they necessarily needed. I guess maybe they got one win more than they absolutely needed, but they really needed a solid week this week, and they got it. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy. You already know that All in Physical Therapy gave our mother the strength to take gold in the power clean at the Olympics in Paris. That's what she's doing right now, just out there throwing plates around. But what you don't know is that mom loved her experience there because of the personal attention she got from Tommy and the staff at All In. They guarantee a personalized, one-on-one experience to suit the needs of patients recovering from total joint surgeries, sports injuries, or any kind of injury or pain.
You know, mom's over in Paris challenging everyone she sees to arm wrestling matches and push-up contests. That's all this woman does.
She's basically Stallone from Over the Top. All in Physical Therapy is owned and operated by Tommy Freevert with locations in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and they just opened their spot in Belton. So congratulations to them. But most importantly, they're in network for nearly all insurance providers.
After she snaps a few forearms, she probably screams something incoherent about World War II and just storms off.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch!
Normandy Beach just storms off.
If you're a high school athlete recovering from injury or someone bouncing back with a brand new hip or knee, check out the best physical therapy in the KC Metro at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com, or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. Right now, all anyone wants to talk about is the Royals bullpen. Why? Because they keep giving fans reasons to slip closer and closer to alcoholism. They blew crucial 9th, 10th, and 11th inning leads in the third game of the Tiger series to blow the game for the Royals, and it's looking like at least one of those deadline acquisitions may not be as reliable as hoped. So, we're going to play a little game I'm calling Circle of Trust. We're going to go through every pitcher in the bullpen and describe where he is relative to our circle of trust. So this is for Mike and I. This isn't for the Royals. This is how we view these relievers. The options are inside the circle of trust, outside the circle of trust, or a day pass for the circle of trust. That's for those who are in the right situation, could be good, or maybe we think they're on the right track to being in the circle of trust at some point. So, Mike, let's start with some guys who've been here all year. I kind of tried to organize this by who's been in this bullpen the longest. Let's start with Will Smith. He was brought in to be the closer. Hasn't worked out that way. Mike, is Will Smith inside or outside the circle of trust? Everybody on Twitter tells me that he should be inside because he hasn't given up a run in I don't know how long. But what do you think?
I think I should never let you take control of the creative director role on this.
Why?
Show.
Why? I have control of all
circle of trust. Try circle of crap. Okay.
You're talking about Will Smith specifically?
Yeah, well, yes, pretty much. Yeah. So he's outside my circle of trust. And there's a simple reason why. When I ask the role he was brought in to fulfill, that's certainly not where I would trust him being. I can't have him in high leverage situations. So I think he's not only out of my circle of trust, I think he's out of the Royals circle of trust. He's the janitor, man. He's the guy, mop up guy. That's what he's going to have to be. I went and looked at some of his game logs, and the only time he gets in the 8th and 9th inning is when we're up or down by more than, when we're like 4 runs or more. He gets in, up or down, and that's it. And he's only pitched 7 innings in the last month, which is the least amount in the entire bullpen for any guy that has been there the whole month. He's the kind of the last guy you go to. And so, no, he is outside my circle of trust for anything competitive.
Yes, I believe he is striking out less than 6 hitters per 9 innings, right? Like That's insane for a relief pitcher,
For
by
a
the way.
bullpen, yeah.
Yeah, insane. He is outside mine as well. I think he should be outside the team, and I'm going to leave it at that. Let's go to Chris Stratton, Mike. Chris Stratton, is he inside, outside, or does he have a day pass to your circle of trust?
He gets a day pass on a very rare occasion. He can get maybe the 6th or 7th in an advantageous situation. Like you've got 3 righties coming up or 2 righties coming up and a guy who can't hit at all. And, guys who can't hit his slider, okay. But no, I'm definitely not. I'm going to give him a day pass because you need people to fill innings. But he's getting extremely low leverage for me just when his stuff plays to the guys hitting in that inning.
Yeah, he's outside my circle of trust as well because I have higher standards than you, frankly, in all things, I would say. But yeah, he's just walking too many guys, and his fastball isn't what it was last year. His breaking pitches and his off-speed pitches are actually better than they were last year, but his fastball has drastically decreased in value, and as a result, he's having trouble staying in the strike zone because he can't locate that breaking stuff as well, and he's walking too many hitters. Mike, real what's focal point or I don't know, inflection point. I don't know what to describe James MacArthur
Focal
as, but
point of people's anger.
everybody's
Target?
that's it. He's a real target of their anger right now. How do you feel about James MacArthur? Is he inside or outside the circle of trust?
Boy, I hate to say this because he was way inside after we saw him in spring training, but he's outside. He is outside my circle of crap. Okay, my little crap circle. Me and James.
No,
MacArthur.
it's a circle of trust.
He's outside of it though. He can't locate. He needs 2 things to be good as a relief pitcher in Major League Baseball. He needs his 2-seamer to be good, and he needs his slider to be good. Right now, he can't locate either one of them. The slider near the strike zone, it's a ball every time, and the 2-seamer right in the heart of the strike zone and just gets murdered. And so he's got an ERA over 10 in the last month. He's pitched more than Will Smith still, but he's got an ERA over 10.
And I still trust him more than
I
Will
still
Smith
trust him
somehow.
more than Will Smith. But he's got an ERA over 10. He can't stay up here. He's not helping. He's only hurting you right now.
Yeah, I agree. He is outside my circle of trust, and it needs time to regroup in AAA. I don't know if that's time to work on those pitches, time to figure out how to locate. He was having an at bat. It was like the crucial at bat of the game that he blew. Yesterday in the 3rd game of that Tiger series, and he just kept throwing this guy slider after slider after slider after slider, and this guy either let him go and drew the count even, or fouled him off. Even in 3-2, he kept throwing the slider, kept fouling him off until MacArthur floated one over the heart of the plate, and then he jacked it for a double, right? And that's all you have to do with his slider is either let it go for a ball, foul it off, and wait till he throws you a cement mixer right over the heart of the plate. And then that's what people have been doing, and then they'll crush that 2-seamer if he throws that ever too. And so it's like
it drifts against righties. It drifts right in the heart of the zone,
right into the heart of the zone. Right. Bye-bye. Yeah. And so he needs to get down to AAA and start working on a solution to this problem that he's got. He has options. It's not going to cost him, James MacArthur, anything. So I think that I'm looking for something like that to occur in the next week or so. Mike, John Schreiber, inside or outside that circle of trust?
I'm going to give him a day pass because I think you need a guy like John Schreiber in a bullpen because of his high ground ball rate. When you need a double play, you bring in a guy like John Schreiber, or if you've got a guy who doesn't hit tough sliders from lefties, or if you need like a change up,
righties.
From righties, or if you need like a change up from a different profile of pitcher, because Schreiber does have a little bit of a sidearm release kind of a thing. If you have a guy who starts the game, comes straight over the top, maybe to give him a different look, but never like high leverage late inning type stuff. But situational, I think he fills a couple needs for you in the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm going to be the same there. I think a day pass for Schreiber makes a lot of sense. I'm interested to see what he looks like coming off the injury, just giving his arm a little bit of rest and seeing okay, is he going to come back and have some stuff that will allow him to miss a few more bats? But for now, I think, very particular situations like you described. We need a ground ball. We have some righties coming up. It's the 6th. We're already down 3. Something like, or we have a safe lead or something. Nothing like high leverage in that sort of moment. We need a strikeout kind of thing. This is next one's an interesting one for me. Angel Zerpa, Mike, inside, outside your circle of trust?
This one's a short for me. Inside. He's a solid middle relief guy that can do a couple different things for you. So yeah, I'm in on him still.
I'm inside too. I've been a big Zerpa fan this year, and I think the strides he's made in terms of fastball velocity are really interesting. I honestly think he's just like a better version of John Schreiber, better left-handed version of John Schreiber. He gets a lot of ground balls, but he has a little bit more strikeout ability, a little bit more swing and miss to him. And I think that's really important. People talk about, oh, he stranded a whole bunch of runners. A lot of that is just luck and has nothing to do with any sort of ability. But the ability to get a ground ball, the ability to get a double play, I think there's a lot to that. I also think he could be a multi-inning reliever if they wanted to use him that way. They don't for the most part, but there's a lot going well for Zerpa, and he would be among my favorites and definitely inside the circle of trust. Moving on to another lefty, Sam Long, Mike. Sam Long, inside or outside your circle?
He's inside, especially for what he is. I think if we think of him for what he is and not what we kind of needed when he first came up and hoped that he was, he's good to lefties. He can get a strikeout if needed, especially against left-handed hitters. He's got that good slider. The fastball can play. It's not the greatest pitch in the world. He's got to use it strategically, I think, the fastball. But yeah, I think he's a very useful piece in a bullpen still, especially to lefties. If you want to say we have one left-handed specialist, it's probably Sam Long.
Which is funny because we have a bunch of left-handed relievers.
I know. Isn't that weird?
Our bullpen's full of them. He's inside. He might be the damn circle. He might be in the bullseye of my circle of trust because he's the one who's been the most consistent performer for the longest period of time. Like he's the one who has been. There's never been a point since he came up where we've been like, "Ooh, I'm not really sure if Sam Long. He's been rough lately." No, he's just come in and handled business every single damn time. Has he been perfect? No reliever's perfect, but he looks really good all the time when he's out there. And when he comes in, I'm always like, okay, good. This wasn't a mistake, right? And so I feel good about Sam Long. He's one of the guys who I think you can lean on in tough spots. Next guy's a little more interesting. He hasn't pitched that much this year by Chris Bubich, inside or outside the circle of trust.
He's inside because I like what I've seen because I think it looks a lot like what it did at the beginning of the year last year before the Tommy John. But I just don't know exactly what role he should be in now. There's guys that have the ability to get the strikeout more than him in this bullpen. Though he can strike guys out, I mean, it's possible he's getting a lot. The thing I guess I still like about him is that he is getting some swing and miss on the fastball. And the swing and miss on the fastball is kind of an indicator for him of, okay, Chris Bubich can be good because now the changeup will play up. And then he'll keep guys kind of off balance with the slurvy kind of breaking ball that he has. And so I think I've seen that, but I don't know how that plays best in a bullpen. It still looks like a starter to me,
Yeah.
And so
yeah, and
you tell me, maybe they work him into that fifth starter spot and Lorenzen eventually comes to the bullpen. I wouldn't see that either, but I don't know where he fits. I don't know where he fits exactly.
Don't feed into the crazy fan conspiracy theories. No,
I am the crazy fan.
I know.
Conspiracy
Where's
theories.
your tinfoil hat, Mike? Show it to me. I know it's just off screen. Yeah. He's inside my circle of trust too, and I think eventually it's unorthodox because he's left-handed, but I think eventually it'll be high leverage setup guy for Bubich. It'll probably be Bubich Ursig as like your 8-9 inning guy. Like it'll be Bubich and then Ursig as your Bubich setup, Ursig coming to close. He can get strikeouts, and that's great. He does have the 3 pitches he can utilize. Interestingly, the other night when he gave up that run, first off, the guy started at second, so it's a tough run. Doesn't count as an earned run or anything in extra innings. But he had 2 strikes on the guy, and it was very clear he wanted to go back to his changeup because it was a righty. So he goes back to his changeup. The guy anticipated it and took it the other way, and that's what ended up scoring the run. He might need to be a little bit more creative about his pitch selection and things like that in those moments, but he has what it takes stuff-wise to be a high-leverage guy, and he's been really good so far. I think he has a great chance to be consistent as a bullpen guy for them. He's their setup guy in my mind. Mike, this one will be a controversial one. Hunter Harvey, inside or outside your circle of trust?
Okay, I'm going to say outside my circle of trust here, but that doesn't mean I think he needs to not be in the bullpen. It just means that he's outside my circle of trust right now for the really important spots in a game until he figures out what he's doing with that split finger. Whether really it's about him being able to command it a lot better. He's leaving it up so frequently that guys are drilling that thing. I mean, it's getting killed right now. He throws the fastball, which is still a very high performing pitch, the fastball, his 4-seam fastball. but he throws the fastball and the split finger over 85% of the time. And right now, one of those pitches is broken.
Two
Okay.
of them, actually, because the
Yeah.
performance against his fastball since he's been a Royal has also been really bad. Like,
That's really cool with the balloons.
yeah, I know, right? Keep those balloons going. I looked at the numbers for Hunter Harvey for his fastball since he's been a Royal, and the weighted expected on base average is like 480 or something. Like they're
Oh,
killing
okay.
his fastball
See?
since he's become a Royal too.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, he's got to get some of that stuff figured out because those are your two pitches. Neither one of them is working right now, as you just stated there. So, oof. Outside for me.
yeah. I'm going to go day pass just because we've seen the track record from him. He was a really good reliever last year. For last 2 years, was a good reliever for the first half of this year. The arm talent is there. He still throws hard. It's not a velocity dip or anything like that. I think they've just taken the time to get him right. And if they get him right, he'll be a very important part of the bullpen. They just have to find a way to get him right. And so I trust Zach Bove. I trust Brian Sweeney. I'm not like, he's inside. Right now, I think he should be getting the low leverage innings, but I think he'll work his way back to the high leverage situations. All right, final one, Mike. The newest member of this bullpen in some ways, Lucas Ursig, inside or outside your circle of trust?
He's inside. Have you seen this guy? Have you seen
he's
him
incredible.
since he's been pitching? Of course he's inside. I see him eventually, pretty soon actually, getting the highest leverage innings that the Royals have to pitch, whether that's ninth inning closer or traditional closer type things, or when the heart of the lineup comes up, he's in there facing them. The stuff so far has been absolutely wonderful from him. The fastball location has been really good, which is something he's struggled with in the past. And 99 and 100 on the edge sometimes. That's wild, with the great slider to go with it. So yeah, and it looks like a real competitiveness on the mound. And so I like that too. All the way inside on Ursig. Hopefully the command continues to hold.
Yeah, I'm inside as well. And what surprises me is how well he commands that 99, 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Like, he commands it really well. It's one thing to throw really hard, like Michael Kopech does or nothing like that. It makes the difficulty of hitting that pitch so much harder if you can actually put it in a quadrant or in a spot that is tough for a hitter to get on top of, or to know whether it's not. If you can put it on the edges, the outcomes for a 99-mile-an-hour fastball are going to be tremendous. And so, that's a big advantage for Ursig. Throw on the fact that he's got 3 additional pitches, some of which are good, really good as well.
The slider is
he's
very good pitch.
Very good slider. I think this guy's got closer written all over him. And, a 7th, 8th, 9th that looks like Sam Long, Chris Bubich, and Lucas Ursig doesn't sound too bad to me. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Phoenix has all of our favorite things: year-round golf, year-round baseball, and Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Whether you want to buy your dream retirement home or stay a while and catch spring training, Eric can help you find the perfect house fast. We've known him for 30 years and trust him far more than we even trust each other.
Mark can't trust anyone anymore since that nasty stage diving disaster at the Spin Doctors concert where he crushed 3 hippies to death.
They were so much smaller than me. Eric does long-term rentals for the snowbird crowd and home sales and purchases for those who want to stay a while longer. Are you a baseball player or parent who needs a place in the Phoenix area? Eric will help you find the perfect spot fast. You want to spend your days shanking golf balls into the great beyond? Eric knows the golf scene like Mike knows how sad the families of those dead hippies were. Very sad.
Yeah,
Find Eric.
Lots of mean letters.
Yes. Find Eric online at ericoxer.com. If you can figure out how to spell his name, it's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Even if you're just curious about what he can do for you, he's 100% no pressure, one of the best people we know.
And his home always smells like freshly baked cinnamon rolls.
It's delicious. The Royals are back home this week for a very important series against the Boston Red Sox, who currently sit 2.5 games behind them for the final wildcard spot. They get a day off after that, and then a 2-game series. A 2-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals after that. All of this happens at home, and then they get another day off. Mike, tell us about the Boston Red Sox. We only get 5 games this week.
Well, the Red Stockings of Boston are 59 and 51, which is good for third in the AL East behind the Orioles of Baltimore and the Yankees of New York. But they're a solid team. We saw them not that long ago. This is a huge series. They're who we're battling for that spot. It's going to be fun. This is going to be the start of
I hope so anyway.
Really exciting baseball.
Won't be fun if they get swept out of there. I'll tell you that right now.
That's true. That first game will be Brady Singer versus newly acquired James Paxton for the Red Sox. They just got him from the Dodgers, I believe. 35-year-old left-handed pitcher out of Canada. Yeah, the Great White North there. 4.52 ERA and a 1.46 WHIP. It's not that he was performing all that terribly in Los Angeles. They're just getting a lot of guys healthy, and even an average pitcher is nothing for that all-star group they put in the rotation. So they're like, get away from us, peasant. We don't need you anymore.
We'll take Clayton Kershaw instead.
Yeah, I guess. Whatever. Four-seam fastball, 93 to 94. Knuckle curve, changeup, sinker, cutter. His fastball velocity is down this year, and so he's getting hit. It's getting hit a lot better. 271 expected batting average, 455 expected slugging on the fastball, but he's still a solid pitcher. Had some really good years in Seattle. Second game, Seth Lugo versus Brian Bello, 25-year-old righty out of the Dominican Republic. He's got what?
Every time I hear the name Brian Bello, you know what I think of?
I know what you think of. I'm Brian Fellows.
I'm Brian. I love that so much.
Tracy Morgan on
Get that monkey out of here. Tell him to quit smiling at me.
Is he going to bite me? I don't want to get bit. Hilarious stuff. If you have never seen it, go check out Tracy Morgan's Brian Fellows Saturday Night Live skit. This is Brian Bello, okay, not Brian Fellows. 25-year-old out of the Dominican Republic. 5.13 ERA, 1.44 WHIP. Those are both bad, okay? He's got a sinker, a slider, a changeup, a four-seam fastball in the mid-90s. They keep killing his sinker, but he keeps throwing it like crazy. What is he doing? I have no idea. And hopefully we can really tattoo him against Lugo. That's a solid matchup there in the middle. The third game is the game of all games, pitching matchup, Reagans versus Cutter Crawford, the 28-year-old righty out of Florida Gulf Coast. 3.81 ERA, 1.09 WHIP. I think if I remember right, he did pretty good against the Royals the last time we saw them, so hopefully they can bounce back against him. Four-seamer that's 92 to 93. He doesn't throw exceptionally hard, but cutter, sweeper, splitter, knuckle curve, good stuff. He gives up some hard contact, but he gets a lot of ground balls as well. So hopefully
he does not get a lot of ground balls.
I thought he was a ground ball guy.
No, but if they can get the ball in the air, they might have some success against him because he does give up hard contact.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that is a good, hopefully that's going for the sweep. Reagans versus Cutter Crawford. What do we got in the cards after that?
After that, it'll be the Cardinals coming to town. Actually, it'll be a day off after that. Then the Cardinals come to town for a 2-game series. Their Cardinals are 57 and 54. That's good enough for second in the NL Central behind the Brewers. I think they're 5 games back when I checked. On the offensive side, they're basically a league average team. They have a 99 weighted runs created plus, which makes them good enough for 16th in Major League Baseball. The lineup is actually just full of average hitters, too. That's why they're an average team. It's not like they have like 4 really good hitters and 5 bad hitters. They're just all pretty much average up and down the lineup, except for Alec Burleson. He has a 117 OPS plus. I think he hit a home run against us when we played them earlier. Burleson's a big, powerful right fielder. Hopefully we can keep him in check when they come to Kansas City. On the pitching side, they're not even as good as they are offensively. They have a 4.10 ERA, which is good for 18th. They have a lot of average starting pitchers, guys around 4 to 4.5 ERAs. Sonny Gray is having a pretty good but not great year at 3.72. But other than that, their starting rotation is pretty much average. So hopefully we'll have some advantages pitching-wise in that series. I think they'll probably be facing Lawrenson and who else? Waka and Lawrenson, probably.
That could be a
Lorenzen.
Yeah. Is Sonny Gray ever? When do the Royals sign Sonny Gray? 2 years, you think? 2-3 years?
4 or 5 years, yeah. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with our Just About Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, it's been quite a week. I've had a lot of stuff going on. What have you got going on?
Well, this past week I did some staining of my deck. Apparently, you have to do that every so often to protect it. So here's the thing, though. This is more of a question than something that's interested me this week. because you've talked on this part of the show about home projects you've done. I'm staining my deck. The reason I chose to stain my deck was because I got several estimates because I did not want to do it for other people to do it, but they were all between $2,200 and $2,600. Okay, I am not a wealthy man. All right, Mark, you know this. I'm not a wealthy man.
Until you subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack, we are not wealthy men.
We will never be wealthy men. So we're probably never going to be wealthy men. But so I was like, I talked to one of the guys, and they were all nice guys that did the estimates and all that stuff. I talked to one of them about like, what's the process for this? And he explained it to me, and I was thinking like this might be complicated, or we got to do this kind of thing. But it was like super easy. It was power wash, 2 coats of this. It's really like paint. It's not really stain. It's light. They call it stain, but it's like paint. And I was like, well, heck, I can do that myself. So I'm about to finish it up tomorrow, and I will have saved myself like a little over $2,000, right? But I started thinking, what is the limit? Like at what point do you say, okay, that's not a DIY. That's I have to get someone's help. Things like your foundation, I understand those are like, you don't do DIY that stuff. But I was wondering yours out of curiosity, because you've done some crazy stuff.
Like what?
The trees in Virginia to me is crazy.
Oh.
Mark did like an eagle lift. He went way the heck up there. He's cutting down trees that are 100 feet tall. Yeah. Like just insane, like lumberjack crap. And I'm like, I don't think I would do that. But what is your limit? What would you?
Well, I can tell you, I passed my limit there because I would never do that again. That was very dangerous. And I did save myself a significant amount of money. You know how expensive taking trees down is, but it was just so much time, so much energy and effort, and then just dangerous as all get out. Almost hit my house with about I would say 60-foot section of a tree. And so, it was just not wise. I did it, but everything turned out okay, but it was rough. And so, I have like rules that are like, I don't mess with electrical and I don't mess with plumbing. And those are sort of
I don't mess with plumbing. I did a little electrical the other day, actually, in this room that I'm in right now. Because it was so simple and YouTube exists. But, I think my limit is, I always do like the cost benefit analysis. Like what's it going to cost me in materials and time and whatever versus what are they going to charge me? This one just seemed like an obvious one, the deck thing, but it made me curious. Like, yeah, what's the limit? I don't get on my roof anymore. That's another one of mine.
Yeah,
I don't come close to getting on my roof anymore.
I'm not big on getting on the roof anymore. There's also so there are so many things that you really pay a lot for, not because they are complicated or dangerous, but because they're very labor intensive. So you talk about the fence that I'm building back here right now. If I had somebody I know just got an estimate for a fence, they got estimated $8,000 for a fence smaller than mine, right? And so all I'm thinking is mine came in under $2,000, and I'm like, I just saved myself $6,000. Why? Because I was willing to go out and spend weekends and nights and stuff like that, just laboring to dig out these holes and all these sorts of things. It takes a lot of work and it sucks, but you can save large chunks of money.
I think I wouldn't do that, for example. Okay. I'm too old for that now.
Okay. You did it with me. You helped me do it. So
yeah, that's different.
Yeah, it is different. My thing for this week is not going to be a positive. So if you're I just only want positivity, then time to end the Royals Weekly podcast for this week, because I'm going to be critical of somebody I really don't like. So you may have heard a story coming out of the Olympics this week about a boxer from Algeria who is being criticized because people are calling her a man, right? She is not a man. She is not a transgender woman. She is just a woman. She has been a woman her entire life. But for some reason, people decided that it was in their political best interest to take this up as an issue and start arguing about this, right? And I thought it was really stupid at the time, and it is really stupid. But what really gets me and makes me very, very pissed is that Pat McAfee, who has the largest platform in sports commentary, decided that it was a great idea on the first day that this sort of became an issue, that the discourse for this created, on the very first day, before he knew anything, in complete ignorance, decided that he would go on his show and talk about this as if this person were either a man or a transgender man, right? Now, this woman is having her life essentially destroyed and brought down around her because people with huge voices and a ton of power, like Pat McAfee is so powerful, he got ESPN to lay off a flotilla of actual journalists to pay him $85 million. That's how powerful Pat McAfee is, right? And he goes out and decides he wants to ruin this person's life by like making these accusations that make no sense whatsoever because out of his own freaking ignorance. For what? To score points for a certain section of his fan base that is toxic and gross and awful, right? Like, you already have them, Pat. They're already on your side. Why do you have to destroy this person's life? That makes no sense to me. And ESPN hiring a person who would do that also makes no sense to me. You ask, why has ESPN changed? I think a lot about ESPN because in my mind, their coverage has gotten progressively worse for the last 30 years to where they used to actually do sports journalism and now they just do whatever Skip Bayless and Pat McAfee is, like all that kind of crap, right? Like, but this is what it brings us to. It brings us to a point where one athlete is just former athlete, Pat McAfee, is trying to destroy the life of another athlete who has way less power, way less money, way less of a platform. Why? Why is he doing that? Because it's a hot topic today, because he has to have a take on everything, despite the fact that he is ignorant of so many things. Pat McAfee studied communications at the University of West Virginia. Did he study women's gender study? Did he study human biology? No. He doesn't know any of those things. He doesn't know anything about the conversation related to gender in sports or women in sports or anything like that. And yet he's willing to jump into this conversation just for the clicks, just for the video watches, just for the eyes and the attention. So, Royals Weekly fans, do me a favor. Reconsider whether or not you should consume media like that because it is garbage. We aren't great here at Royals Weekly. I don't claim that this is an amazing podcast, but I can tell you what I'm never going to do. I'm never going to try and punch down. I'm never going to try and go after an athlete who has no power to sort of speak back to me, right? Like, I'm not going to do it, right? Pat McAfee, very comfortable doing it apparently. So please just consider whether or not you should consume his media.
I don't. I've heard a little discourse about that topic and stuff, and most of what I'm hearing is idiots who don't know anything, and a lot of it's willful ignorance because the statement that they're making serves some sort of agenda or purpose for them. But my question is: has ESPN made a retraction or an apology, or has he at all in any way? Or
I have not seen one. No.
Yeah, jeez.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I haven't seen one.
I understand sometimes in the haste of what is real journalism, sometimes people like Pat McAfee and talking heads, we'll call them, hot take artists, whatever you want to call them. Sometimes they will jump the gun on these types of things in trying to show that they're breaking news as respectable journalists and crap like that. So they'll put stuff out there before there is any information out there, which they shouldn't do anyway. And actual journalists would know not to. But that's my wonder is, okay, did he put something out there in haste? And as I understand putting something out there in haste and then coming back and saying, you know what, that was stupid. I was ignorant of that. I shouldn't have said that. That's different to me. I can accept a thing. That doesn't mean I'm going to watch Pat McAfee because I don't like that kind of stuff. But I can at least respect that in some ways, making a mistake and then speaking up for it. But if he hasn't done that, then fuck him.
And others have done that, right? The Boston Globe printed a horrible headline related to this where they had called this person transgender when she is not, right? Like, and they printed a retraction, they printed an apology, they printed a long thing that was like, this was a huge mistake, we didn't mean this was all that sort of thing. I don't know if Pat McAfee has. If he hasn't, he needs to. ESPN needs to, but I'm not expecting that because honestly, McAfee's brand is toxic garbage. And so like, that's what he's trying to do. He wants the controversy. He wants to be a hot take artist. He wants this sort of thing. I would be shocked if he ever issues an apology, but if he does, good for him, but he needs to do it. I'll just say that. That's all I have for this week. That's all we have for this week. Please tune in again next week. Thanks for joining us here on Royals Weekly presented by Bet Online. Make sure you're subscribing to the Substack. Make sure you're talking and having fun talking about the Royals. We'll see you again next week. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.